Hello, hello. Welcome to Dog Eared Thoughts. I'm Michael. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to another episode. So this one's going to be a little different. I don't know if anyone else has experienced the app called Whatnot, and I think it's kind of an auction site. People broadcast and do different things. They sell everything from Pokemon cards to sports cards to food to magazines, etc. But there's definitely a contingent on there that's book focused, and I've had some fun over the last few weeks of just tuning in to different channels and watching what they're selling. And one of the things that I found myself gravitating towards and actually buying a handful of is some old mass market paperbacks. And I think I had forgotten. Not only do I think the covers and some of the things are really fun, but they're not made for this like put on your bookshelf and keep forever kind of thing. I think quite frankly they're almost literally made for short consumption and then passing on to someone else. And then if anything, that's exactly what this works as. So it's really been a kind of a cool community, kind of cool way to find it. There's most of them sell for relatively cheap. And then you throw in a little bit of shipping, and it ends up being a good deal, especially considering what books are going for out there in the world these days, even in the paperback format, right? So really is kind of a fun win there. I think if I may get a little bit on my soapbox before I jump into and talking about the books that I got, these are the paper isn't really cheap. The typeface is small. But one of the things that I really love, like I found myself, it fits in a pocket. Whether it's a coat pocket, your back pocket of your jeans, whatever. It's easily accessible. They're small, but not so small that it's impossible to read. But they're really easy to jump into. And the books that I have kind of range the gamut of being published in like the 60s all the way to the early 90s. And a lot of that, if anyone was around and recalls that, there's a great sense of that's when these books were really popular in terms of the format that they were in. So you're looking at most of them are sci-fi. You have the spy thrillers, you have the westerns, romance, obviously, and even into some degree the horror genre as well. So really, some of them aren't too long. Some of them are less than 200 pages, but they really kind of dig into that, and it's really a good opportunity to experience and re-experience that. So if you, as a reader, have the opportunity, because I feel like we've lost a lot of that in our time frame, and the paperbacks that are there, they're super nice, but they're almost just as nice as the hardcovers. And even though they are, not necessarily $30 like the hardcovers are, they're certainly pushing 20 easy. So from a standpoint of we kind of lost a little bit of affordability when it comes to being able to pick up books. And whether or not easily get them, and obviously your library, I always support, say that's the first place you should go for that sort of thing. But then on top of that, you have the opportunity to, if you're looking at just you're in the, it used to be the airport, or it could be gas station, it could be these days I think Dollar Tree actually has a good deal on books sometimes. So take a look at some of that stuff to see where you can find some good things. And obviously used bookstores, support local, support small businesses, jump into that as well. So yeah, we'll jump into the books that I got, and I'm just excited to just experience. In most of these cases, I think I only know like two authors for sure, and so they're new authors to me. The stories may or may not be super compelling and super great, but I think I'm just excited to kind of jump into that and see where they go. So we'll get in there and talk about that. The first one I'm going to talk about is The X Factor by Andre Norton, which is a pen name for Alice Mary Norton, actually. She was well known for these kind of science fiction books, especially in the 50s, 60s, and even earlier, and even into the 80s and 90s as well. So wrote a lot on in the science fiction space, fantasy space, westerns, etc. So really put it on there. And so this one is really a focus of you have a character's name is Diskin Fentress, and he's the son of one of the world-renowned scouts of scouting other planets, and so he himself is what's considered a mutant in this story, and so he steals his father's spaceship and takes off to another planet, and then once he crash lands there, he has to survive and also finds ways to interact with the local alien life, and as well as people who are there as treasure hunters slash thieves, and as well as other scientists. So it's a thin one, as you can see. It's not super thick, less than 200 pages, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be an interesting one. I think it should be a quick read, but I also I'm interested to see not in terms of the level of information and the level of detail that goes into it. As you can imagine, the type is fairly small, and but yet it's also readable. And this is one of the ones I was talking about. Like, this fits easily in like your back pocket or your pocket of your shorts or wherever you might be. So it's something you could easily take with you and read wherever you go. And so I'm looking forward to that one. I would note that from what I read about this one, there's a general sense that this one isn't necessarily Andre's Norton's or Alice's best story of all the ones that are out there. But I think if it's a good entry point, and hey, maybe we'll find a new author that I like and can crank out some different books throughout that one for sure. So looking forward to that. The next one is called Crusade by David Weber and Steve White. In looking at this one, I did find out Steve White passed away as a co-author, passed away last year, so in 2025. So obviously he and Steve, he and David were prolific writers. They were super busy. Apparently, they wrote a significant series called the Starfire series back in the 90s. And as well as both of them kind of did their own thing outside of this. So this one is an interesting one. So this is there's obviously set in space, as you could tell by the spaceship cover, and basically there's been a big conflict between humans and other aliens called Orions. And at this beginning of this book, they've settled into an uneasy peace. But then suddenly, out of nowhere, another ship appears from the humans' past and threatens that peace and looking to destroy and creating war. Right. So one of those things that I would argue is probably not necessarily a new or unsurprising topic. Right. There's lots of different ones out there that have similar topics, so to speak. And it's interesting, this one on the cover says like Free Holy Mother Terra, which is, I guess another word for Earth. So interesting this one will be interesting to read. I hope. We'll see where this goes. But again, not too long, kind of short, and a good size from a travel standpoint, especially if you travel a lot or go through things like that. Looking forward to that one. The next one, this is one of those authors that I am aware of. It's Treason by Orson Scott Card. So, Card is definitely much well known as for his Ender Game series, and books along with some other non-book related issues and things like that. So I know he might not be everyone's favorite author, and I have not actually read any of his books in quite some time. I think it's been I stopped kind of early into the Ender's Game series and have not caught up to any of the new ones, and I'm not sure that I will anytime soon. But this one was an interesting premise. Where you have a a person, Lanik, who's heir to the planet Treason itself, right? And in terms of, he himself is kind of a, again, this is also an interesting thing. There's another sense of this person being a mutant or having some kind of powers to regenerate or be different from the rest of the people on the in the planet. And so, you know, how does he evolve into that, and then find his way to either escape the planet or rule the planet, right? And go into that. And so, yeah, like now charged with a mission of conquest and exile. He has a bold and dangerous plan to stop those people who are enslaving the people on Treason, the planet. So, definitely an interesting topic. We'll see how that is. Again, I haven't really read Orson Scott Card in a while, so I'm not entirely good memory. I don't have a great memory of his writing style, so we'll see where this falls. But I feel like this one will probably be somewhere in the middle. Again, I'm not sure that any of these are going to be 5-star reads. I'm not going into it with that. I am just simply looking at this from a entertainment, something, reading something new, something that maybe some people haven't read in a while, and it would be fun to kind of see where that goes. So, going in from that one. This next one is actually one that I just started a little bit further. It's called Funeral in Berlin by Len Deighton. And this one is absolutely a Cold War spy thriller. And you almost would expect it from that title. Set in this was written in the 60s. It's set in the 60s. Absolutely East Germany, West Germany, Cold War, all of those things. This one was actually this book was actually turned into a movie starring Michael Caine, and so it's an interesting. I don't think I've seen the movie, but it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. And yeah, it's always kind of an interesting. The basic crux of the story is you have a spy who's trying to pull a scientist out of from East Germany into defect into the West. He has a KGB colonel on the other side who might be helping him and might not be helping him, and where does that go? And obviously this is all set also in kind of a British standpoint as well. So absolutely, should be interesting. It's right along the ways of the early 60s. So you have you're still right in the middle of the Cold War. The Cuban Missile Crisis was in fresh in everyone's mind. The Berlin Wall hadn't been up that long. So yeah, it's definitely has a lot of that feel to it, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And then the last book is Colony by Ben Bova. Ben is, I've read, at least I recall reading in my youth in the late 80s, early 90s, one of his books before, and I'd have to go back and see exactly which one this was. So his name was known to me, and I know he also is a huge writer for things, especially sci-fi. Writes a lot of space books or books set in space and things like that. So a lot to that goes into that, and I'm excited to kind of dig into this one. This one is written from the late 70s, and this one is set in the far distant future of 2028. So so not not it's always interesting to see where people who even in the 1960s or 50s even in the 70s thought what the 2000s would be like for us, which we still don't have any flying cars. We're not quite there yet. Anyway, so this one is interesting, the way that it starts off. So 2028, on an Earth that is choked with pollution, economic stagnation, and a population exceeding 7 billion, which amazingly enough might be is fairly on the nose. And obviously this one has kind of a world government, UN run amok, so to speak. But there's a space station called Island 1 that is somewhat above, literally above the fray. But also it's interesting. This one has David Adams is the finest and most secret citizen of the space station Island 1. He is basically a computer, an android, or a person in that regard. and or genetically engineered person. And so, uh, while he certainly has the run of this space station, he's also, they keep him secret. They don't let him out. Obviously, he's not allowed on Earth. Any of those things. So, where does how does that go? Where someone who is that smart, that well, genetically engineered, um, is a prisoner and wants to and yearns to be free. And so this one, that sounds like it actually has some good kind of moral quandaries into it. Possibly, you could definitely dig into that. This one obviously is a little bit thicker compared to the other ones. But again, it's I do like the cover though. You got the two guys, one with a space Uzi. You got the woman behind, kind of in the super spy action thriller mode. So hey, you can't beat some of these covers for sure. So super cool. And I'm looking forward to digging into that. And hey, definitely not necessarily not sponsored by whatnot or anything like that. But hey, for anyone who's interested in looking at used books, if you don't have a used bookstore in your town, and quite frankly, I don't, we have Goodwill, which is not too far away, that sometimes has some good stuff in there. Like I said, it's interesting. You find some interesting finds in Dollar Tree. It's not it's rare, but sometimes you find some stuff there too. But so if you don't have, if the library doesn't have some things, or you're looking for something different, and you're looking for some cost-effective opportunities, so all of these books each absolutely was well under $10, even with shipping. So I think that's hey, something to think about as you if it's something that you're interested in, and looking forward to that. So there's those 5 books. It will be interesting to see what they sound like. Hopefully, we'll see if I do an episode later if they're worth talking about, and seeing where that goes. Let me know in the comments any of your old mass market paperbacks that you really love, any authors that you really love. So whether it's from the 80s, the 60s, wherever that might be. Love to hear what your thoughts are in that regard. And yeah, look, subscribe. I'm loving the comments, the conversations that I'm having already, especially related to the Deathgate cycle. 1 book to go. We'll get into that soon. So I'm looking forward to talking a little bit more about that. And hey, we're getting into the Burr months, September, October, November, December, right? So, we'll see what kind of themes I come up with related to either fall or spooky season, things like that. So, hang tight. Looking forward to it. And thanks again for joining me. Hope your reading goes well, and we'll talk soon.